Let's move on then to this now. eNCA's senior reporter Dasen Thathiah is back in the skies, giving us a bird's eye view of Durban's cleanup operations and whether there are any queues for fuel or food. Let's join him live now. And Dasen, part of what you've been focusing on is the issue around the cleanup and the state of pollution in and around areas that had factories that were damaged during last week's looting and violence. What have you got to tell us about that particular aspect of this story?
Yeah, Tula, so we've been talking at length about the economic sabotage over the past week. We've been talking about the impact to the economy, the factories that have been burnt, the trucks that have been set alight and what that has done. But let's also talk for a second about the environmental impact. We touched on it during the week as well, and now once again we are bringing you live visuals of what the north side of Durban looks like towards the beaches. We're in the capable hands of our pilot Bradley Hatfield, and Ganiso Mtalose is on the camera showing you the extent of that pollution that is now in the water leading up to the beach. Now you'll remember, Tulas, that these beaches were closed as a safety precaution. There are efforts now to reduce the impact. We've seen these cleanup teams here over the past few days just to try to contain the spill. Now, this was a direct result of the fire that was set to a warehouse in the Cornubia area. That factory was storing chemicals, and at the time of that violent unrest, we found that that factory was one of those that had suffered an arson attack. But worse than that, to us, was the issue of access. So when the factory was set alight, there was also a problem with access to get to that fire to put it out. So the net effect of that has been what you're seeing now, the fact that these chemicals have traveled all the way down to the water. This is, I think, probably the best way for you to see the impact of that. The other part that you can't see is what it's done to communities here on the north. Our office is located in this area as well, and even with the doors and windows closed, you have that strong chemical smell coming through the air. We've been getting complaints from many residents in this area telling us that they're experiencing the same thing. Yesterday alone, I felt the burning of my nostrils, in my eyes. There was a warning that was issued by authorities as well to say, look, please ensure that you don't expose yourself to this chemical too much just because of that discomfort that is there. I want to now throw to a part of an interview that is done with the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs in KZN, Mr. Ravi Pillay, where he talks about how all of this started. Let's listen into that, Tulas, while we continue this journey.
Well, the cause of the fire, unfortunately, has been part of the week-long carnage that we've experienced in our province, where I suppose they were misled into believing that there might be something of value. They had targeted the macro building next door and perhaps thought it was an extension, we don't know. They then attacked the building and were resisting for some time until they were able to get through. And once they found that there was nothing there of value, apart from a few computers, I'm told, they then set fire to the building. So they didn't leave with anything of commensurate value, but caused huge damage. This is a agrochemical, not factory, a warehouse, which means it contains the ingredients for those agrochemicals, which can range from pesticides and herbicides and other such things that are used in the agricultural industry. So it has the raw materials on one hand, and then it has packaged, fully fledged processed material, which is packaged for distribution, also stored here. We don't think that there's any risk to public health, but we assess that there's some risk to marine health. What had happened was that this is a fairly modern facility. I'm told that it's just been operating for 3 months. It's, but the damage is estimated to be more than R1 billion.
So that's the MEC Ravi Pillay there at Dasen, just painting a picture of the economic and the environmental impact that this violence and looting and destruction, particularly of factories, has had. That's the kind of cost that doesn't immediately come to mind when you think about the cost of this, this damage that was caused over the last few days. What does come to mind almost immediately, though, Dasen, is the issues to do with security and who is responsible. You've been speaking to Minister Begicele about the so-called instigators, and I can see you're actually flying over an installation that's still smoldering there.
Yeah, that's right, Tulas, and I'm going to come to that in a second with the Minister Begicele. I wanted to call your attention to what you're seeing now. So this is the source of those chemicals that you had seen flowing down along these fields and in these tributaries going down to the water there where you saw the cleanup teams working. In fact, you'll also notice now that there are still fire trucks here. Now this has been going on for days, Tulas. In fact, it's still smoldering now, and I think that may also be part of the reason that we are getting some of that air pollution coming through. So as we fly over here, I can't help but wonder what the impact is along the way as it gets into the ocean, because surely there is some damage to the vegetation here in the process. So lots of impacts, as you mentioned, Tulas, not what immediately comes to mind. I think at the time we were all looking at just the fire, we were looking at the looting that was taking place at the retail stores. While I'm telling you that, I realize that, this is directly across the macro that was here as well. But you're right, what we need to talk about is how this all started. It's all fine and well to reflect on what's going on. So those are the questions that we have been persistently putting to government officials, to the police forces, because we want to know that this will not happen again. And for as long as those people that are identified to be instigators are still out, there's a chance of it happening again. So one of the questions we had asked is, where are we in this process? Why is it taking so long? You've been reporting now about the 3 new arrests as well, but that still is not fast enough. If they know where these people, if they know who these people are, why are they not arrested yet? Let's listen in to what the police minister had to say to us on this topic, to us.
The names of 3 people have, but there are other names that have been given to the security forces. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to name those people until they are arrested and come to court. But it looks like in as soon as tomorrow, those names will be put on the public eye.
Sure. So that's the promise then by the police minister, that as soon as tomorrow we will have those names put in the public domain. And I wonder if it's just the 4 from my count, or will we know who are these 12 people that we are told wanted to carry out insurrectionist activities, and they just simply cloaked these with the looting and instigating looting, general looting and violence in our societies in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng. Dasen, I'm seeing smoke where you are flying at the moment, and I'm wondering about the air quality. You were talking earlier on about getting a burning sensation around your nose and your eyes, and also the smell of it, let alone the damage that we were seeing in terms of the flow to the ocean. What is the air quality as you are flying over that area?
It's almost like you read my mind and Brad's mind as well, because we are making our way away from that smoke, because that smell, that stench was permeating the air inside this aircraft much worse than we experiencing, as I mentioned, in the residential areas and in the business areas on the north. It's a very strong smell. I imagine that it's going to be with us for some time to come while that smoke gets into the air. I want to pick up on something that you were talking about now, about the instigators and the people that police are actively pursuing. Now, there's another side to this, Tulas, and that is the side of the almost the danger that we've seen with social media over this time. It's a similar vein to what you were talking about, and that's because it's caused such mayhem in terms of fake messages and fake news. that has been creeping into the very real issues that have been affecting communities. As I'm talking to you now, we are flying over Phoenix. Incidentally, that's where the police minister was talking to us yesterday. You know, this is a community that is now rebuilding after the past week really battered it with a number of reports of deaths, a number of reports of looting, the community coming out to defend their property and to defend their families. One of the reasons why the police minister had come into the area to talk to all of the communities. And in between all of that, we had videos that had gone viral, which was misrepresenting some of the events that were taking place in this community. It became a matter of immediate concern. And even today, we heard reports of the community then saying, we've had enough of this. We're coming together. We're holding a march for peace. We want to talk about rebuilding. And those are the efforts that are underway now. And I think one of the warnings that had come across very strongly here was for unverified information not to be spread, because that poses just as much of a danger as those instigators which were coordinating these attacks.
All right, Dasen Thathiah, we're going to leave it there for now, but I believe we will be keeping your visuals close by from time to time, just checking in where you will be flying over the next few minutes here on eNCA. All right, that's Dasen Thathiah, senior reporter, flying over Durban and just showing us the aftermath of the violence and looting and destruction of property and commercial installations in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng, but also just recapping on the environmental impact, which is something that doesn't immediately come to mind as the flames are burning and the smoke billows over these installations, while we are all worried about our own personal safety and the property destruction that we were witnessing. Now we are dealing with the aftermath in the form of environmental impact.